Hi everybody, Kirsten here with another video, and this one is going to be on attention deficit disorder, aka ADD, also attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. And the main difference is hyperactivity is the component, the differential between the two, where ADD there's not typically hyperactivity, high energy or overactive energy. One of the reasons I wanted to talk about this topic is that both of my boys have had I guess we could say a diagnostic impression. I don't know if it's been an official diagnosis, but a diagnostic impression with ADD. So they both have individualized educational plans because of that, also because of stuttering. And I'm going to do a video on this. I do think, and there is empirical evidence, that there is a link between ADD, ADHD, and stuttering. Probably more ADHD and stuttering. But these are all neurological issues, right? So my oldest is 9, my second boy is 7, and they both, again, have IEPs, and a lot of it is because of what we believe to be the ADD components with them. So you all have heard a lot about ADD. I'm sure you know somebody or multiple people who have been diagnosed with ADD. There is a huge stigma attached with this. It is overdiagnosed, it is overmedicated, and it can be often confused with other diagnoses such as mood dysregulation disorder, depression, anxiety, especially in kids, irritability. It could just show up differently because there's just a lot of components to these different disorders. There's different factors that you look at, and duration, etc. So with kids specifically, I will say this though, it's 100% hereditary. There's a strong component that is hereditary. My husband has official diagnosis of ADD. I believe he's moderate. You know, there's mild, moderate, severe. I would say he's moderate. He can function without medication. Could it help him? Absolutely. Does he need it to function and complete activities and get through the day and have healthy interpersonal relationships? Not necessarily. Someone who's severe probably would not be able to get through daily functioning without some kind of help to regulate their mood and their mind. So as far as my boys, I believe they're also moderate. And I think that my 7-year-old, Gabriel, actually has the hyperactivity component, which is the part where you're restless, you have a difficult time sitting still, you speak fast, you move fast, everything is fast, fast, fast. My oldest, Julian, is more like his father. They don't have the hyperactivity component. So a lot of what shows up with my boys, and I'm going to focus on them, even though a lot of it shows up in my husband too, but as an adult it shows up differently. With my boys specifically, it can show up as, again, restless, hard time focusing is one of the main components, careless, forgetful, so they can lose things or forget where they put things. Careless with your words, that's in a component that people don't often think about. Not only careless with your belongings, that you could also be careless with your words. And so you're not thinking about what you say before you say it, which is another way of saying highly impulsive. You can be impulsive with your actions and impulsive with your words. Difficulty, again, sitting still. And something that I didn't know before I had kids that was a strong component of ADD, that you can either be hyper-focused or hypo-focused. So if you're hyper-focused, then you get all in, like you just have a one-way train of thought, that you're laser-focused, single frame of mind. You cannot see the forest through the trees. So oftentimes with ADD, you get stuck in the details, and they get focused on one topic, and it's very difficult for them to divert their attention to something else. For example, Julian, if he is focused on a particular task that he's doing, maybe he's looking through his Pokemon cards, or he's drawing comic books. He likes to do creative things like that. So let's say he's drawing his comic books, and I ask him, hey, can you feed the dog? Can you take a few moments and then come back? He gets really irritable, not at the thought of doing a chore. He doesn't mind doing his chores, but at the thought of changing focus. So he really, and they all really want to complete one task before they get to another. It makes them really anxious, the thought about the thought of moving to something else before they finish one thing can be very difficult for them. And so we get to work on calming down, or I can pick a better time, that since I know what can be a trigger for them or can be difficult for them, if I can let them finish what they're doing before I ask them to do something else, that's what I do. Because I don't want to make things difficult for all of us. If I say, hey, let's do this, when for me, if someone diverts my attention, it's not a big deal. I can jump from different things and multitask. Some people have a more difficult time. They're 100% focused on one thing, and some would argue it's probably better to not multitask, but put all your attention on one thing and not focus on a lot of things at once. So that is one of the components that with ADD that I really get to take a look at and take my time with them. Another thing that I can do with ADD, because they can be in their head, they can be restless, they can be impulsive. I am very intentional about slowing down. Like, so how I'm talking now, I talk very, or at least I get to remember, and it's on the forefront of my mind that I can't be hyper with them. I can't be agitated or moving around or just really psychomotor agitation. I get to be calmer and cooler and slower and more just thinking about everything that I do. So even speaking, I take my time. In movement, I take my time. And this is not something I always do, but it's something that I have seen helps them slow down and calm down, even if they're not the hyperactive. Like, I definitely do it with Gabriel because of the hyperactivity component, but with Julian, it works with him too, just to slow down their mind, because he is impulsive in his mindset and in his speech, if not in his behavior. So, and it shows up in school too. They're doing extraordinarily well with their grades, and that's something I wanted to touch on. Is there a component between ADD and higher intelligence or gifted? I believe there's a strong component between being gifted and having attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Again, these are all neurological issues, and both of my boys have been tested for the gifted. One of them is in it, the other one is not. The one who's not in the gifted, he actually is at the top of his class, but because of the hyperactivity component and the emotional maturity, he is not tested into the gifted program. It's probably not the right fit for him just because of the age he's at. He's the youngest in his class because his birthday falls literally a week before school starts. So the emotional maturity issue is something that we always get to pay attention to. And there is a tie, I believe, between being gifted, not just bright, but between being gifted and having attention deficit. Do all kids with ADD test as gifted? Of course not. But I'm sure there's a correlation between the two. I don't think there's a coincidence, and again, I don't believe in coincidences, that my husband, my middle child, and my oldest child all are gifted or higher IQ and are tested on ADD. Now, I consider myself bright. I don't necessarily consider myself gifted. I'm bright, but I also am not, don't have ADD. So again, I do think there's a tie. And so what I do is really, when I'm parenting them, I don't know about my daughter yet. She's young. She may be more like me. But I don't know about her yet. But with the boys, I'm very intentional about taking my time, about looking at them in the eyes when I speak. Another thing is if you give them a throwaway line of something that you want them to do, or a question you're asking, or just a statement you're making. If you're not making eye contact with them as you're saying it or asking the question, sorry, the light came off. Let's see if we can fix that. If you are not, we can go without the light. If you are not being intentional, hold on one second. Okay, we're just gonna go with this light. If you're not being intentional about looking them in the eye when you're talking to them, if you're not being intentional about looking at them in the eye when you're talking to them about something important, then they may not hear you. That's happened several times where they literally did not hear me because I was not making sure I had their complete attention, where we were facing each other and making eye contact, and I was taking my time with my speech. So I don't have to do it with everybody, but definitely with them. And there's a lot of joys that come with ADD. Again, there is a strong component with gifted, but also with that recklessness comes a fearlessness. So fearlessness shows up in different ways. With Julian, it shows up different than with Gabriel. But they are willing and able and ready to take chances. And not safety risk, of course. Thankfully, that's not a risk that they're taking, but just with life choices, doing things. And so it's not a diagnosis, a bad diagnosis. It's not something you're saddled with the rest of your life. It's just a different way of thinking. If you have ADD or ADHD with my kids, I let them know. It's just a different way of thinking. And yes, we get to calm down and take our time and speak slower and think things through. But also, the way their mind works is, it's like they're problem solvers up to the wazoo. It's like an exponential level of problem solving. And so I let them know it's a gift, because these are things that I'm not capable of, but they're capable of. And so I do want to do a next video on how stuttering is a component with that, how it's tied together. And I'm going to do more videos as they come out. And I should have said this at the beginning, but I'm going to say it now. Like and subscribe, comment. I love all of it, but 100% subscribe. Take care. Life is now.